Tom, I think we should be good to go. Tom,
Are we
welcome
on?
back, brother. It's been a little bit, but we
How
are
we doing,
here.
my guy?
I'm good. I'm hoping that you are good too. I know we talk. It's funny because we always do this, right? We do like this how we doing, yada yada. But we talk before this, so we know how we're doing. How are you guys doing? Podcast. Hoping you guys are doing well. Today is episode 12 of the Legacy Liftoff, where we are speaking about the compound effect. Tom, you want to just tell them how you're doing, man. You're doing okay. You got a lot going on, bro. You out here doing big things. You got finals and all of this. You know what I'm saying?
Big things, little things. I'm running around. I'm doing a lot of things, and it works in tangent with what we're about to talk about. I guess with the compound effect, right? Just doing a ton of little things and hoping it adds up to something bigger, right?
Hmm.
After graduating law school, I decided to take on a legal as a master's degree and try to do something different and add to my extensive repertoire of education for some odd reason, right? And just decided to be a student again and go through that whole ordeal after I was finished with it. But between that, working full time at a law firm and kind of going through the ups and downs of being, a new associate at a slightly larger than normal law firm and figuring out the ins and outs of the practice and whatnot, I've been, you know, kind of divided and all over the place. And quite honestly, I think I've been feeling slightly complacent with
Hmm.
everything that's been going on, And it's if you want to call it poor timing, good timing that we read this book, a couple of weeks ago, and this is when my funk kind of started kicking in, I guess. It talks about people who are kind of complacent, who's hit a ceiling or like reached that point where they don't know what to kind of do. It feels like I've hit that point, and you would think
Hmm.
when you hit that certain point and you get a book that talks about that certain point, you think it helped you kind of get out of the funk. I'll be honest, it's been about what, a month, and I'm still not out of it. I'm still kind of in it, and as I was telling you before we jumped on, is the book kind of resonated with me, but didn't really help me. Right?
Yeah.
When you read a self-help book, you're expecting an answer, some guidance, anything. It gave me some good points, but I don't think it really helped me get out of the funk or give it didn't really give me the answer I was looking for. And maybe that's the problem. I'm looking for a certain answer, and maybe I
Hmm.
should go with a certain mindset or a different mindset. But that's how I've been feeling. That's how I feel about the book right now. What about you, brother? How you been? What's going
You know,
on?
uh, man. Firstly, kudos to you, bro, because that's a lot going on, and you're still doing what you got to do. We're here on the Legacy Liftoff, and we're trying to make it happen. So, like, shout out to you. I know how it feels. The funk is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Yeah.
to bring it back, I'm in a funk too. It's funny that like we talked about this prior to starting the episode today, man. I don't know if it's a seasonal thing. Like I don't know if we just haven't been getting enough sun or what it is, but it's been rough, man. It's been rough just trying to get through this 9 to 5, trying to make things happen on the side, and sometimes you get discouraged, or sometimes you just lose a little bit of steam. So I've been feeling like I need to pick it up a little bit. Definitely hone in back on what it is that I exactly want, because sometimes I lose focus on it. And like you said, reading these books, it really helps us. It should really help us um,
Right.
kind of figuring out like, oh, like what's the missing piece, whatever the case may be, because sometimes the answer is right in front of our faces and we don't even know. The
I
book,
agree.
I don't think it really helped me either. I read it 3 times, right? Like we've kind of had like a little lag, little hiccups with our episodes, just from a timing, from a life perspective. But here we are trying to make it happen regardless, and that's what I respect about us. Um, so I guess to get into the book, right? We're okay. We're just
Yeah.
gonna do a couple points. We didn't want to keep beating you guys in the head with the same motivational stuff. We're gonna try to improve on a template a little bit. So today we decided we're gonna choose a couple points within the book after having read it, and just try to diverge on it a little bit. Maybe give some thoughts, food for thought for you guys, for us, and particularly 3 of these points that we chose right before the episode. So Tom, you want me to start, or you want to start on the first bullet point? I wrote it down, so I don't know if
Yeah.
you wrote it down or not.
I didn't write it down, but I'll figure it out as we go, and
Okay.
you'll be the guide. But I do remember the first point, which is consistency, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good segue in between what we were just talking about and what kind of happens now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just finding that extra drive and motivation to do what you need to do every single time, waking up and doing it again and again and again. And I think
Mm.
that's one of the underlying principles of this book is consistency. It echoes multiple times. The author mentions it multiple times, and it's just what me and Steve were calling just common sense, right? I feel as though everyone knows, oh, to do something, to get into a habit, you just have to stay consistent and stick with it and kind of power through and get through it. But my take on consistency, right? Well, what defines consistency, right? Is it doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again until you achieve a desired result, right? Or is it doing something X amount of times until you realize that you're not doing it right, you're not doing it correctly, or it hasn't really helped you. So you have to change it a little bit, but stay consistent on your upward trajectory, right? Or stay consistent on a trend or a pattern of trying to grow and better yourself, right? What do you think?
It's hard, man. But it's funny you ask these questions. I'm always like, it's hard, man. It is. It's definitely hard, right? But I guess it just depends on how you're looking at it because one person could say, oh yeah, like I'm being consistent. They're just beating the same, the same tools. They're using the
Right.
same tools, waking up, working out, whatever the case may be. Of course, they're gonna see results more than somebody who's not consistent. But like you said, well, I guess the next step or the next level would be like, okay, like, am I improving? So I guess that's one of the quotes that I seen earlier too, right? It was kind of like,
Right.
winners are trackers, and what I ascertained from that is basically, hey man, like if you're not tracking your progress, okay, you may be consistent, you may be waking up at 6 a.m. and working out every day, but if you're not tracking if you gotten better or not, are you really getting better? Are you reaching
Right.
your goals? Right? Is there a goal to be reached, or are you just working? You're just like like on a hamster wheel.
Right.
Hmm.
I no, it's interesting, right? Because if you think about it, consistency is something that people throw around all the time, right? And if you stay consistent and diligent, right? I guess the greatest example would be in like in sports. To overcome talent, you just have to work hard and stay consistent and train and work your body, right? Well, I forget what that documentary. I think it was on YouTube or something. It's like people who put in like 10,000. It's another book. If you put 10,000 hours into a certain thing, you're supposed to be an expert or good at it or whatever. And then there was a whole YouTube or a documentary series where these high schoolers put in, or college students. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics, but they put in 10,000 hours worth of practice in basketball, and they
Mm-hmm.
tried to measure, could they go to the league or not, which is the ultimate level of achievement in basketball terms, right? And it just I don't think anyone out of that sample size of people who put in, you would call that consistency, right? If you put in 2 hours every day for the next 12 years doing one thing to hone your craft. That's called consistency. You did exactly what you needed to do every single time. But, going to your point of tracking and measuring, it does it matter? Because you can track and measure your progress in that sense. Like, what if your field goal percentage has gone up? The number of
Mm-hmm.
threes you make go up. Like, you can track your progress in a sense, but are there other extra, I guess this is the question, right? Are there other variables that you have to account for that you don't know exist? Which goes back to the original question of, is consistency just doing the same thing, or is consistency looking at the other factors and changing, right? Consistently changing how you do and think about things in order to get to that ultimate goal. You know what I mean?
Super
I don't know.
controversial, man. I can
It,
see.
it,
uh,
because it could go a couple different ways.
yeah, for sure. I don't think that the person who is consistently trying but not necessarily improving. Okay, for you, let's put it like this, right? The example that you gave, the cohort of kids who were putting in 10,000 hours to see if they could go to the league.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they didn't maybe make it to the league doesn't mean that they didn't, one, get better,
Right.
two, become better people by learning the life lessons, right, on the road of trying to get to the league within that
Mm-hmm.
10,000 hours. And thirdly, they become you do become an expert if you're spending that much time on one thing. You may not be the best, but you are an expert, right, by putting that
Right.
time in. So are they losers by not being in the league, or are they winners because they stayed consistent? So I guess like that's the coin that you're asking, right? Like which one is the view? Yeah.
Right. No, because
It's
think about it. If your ultimate goal was to get to the league and you fell short of getting to the league, I mean, if you're measuring it from a metrics standpoint, this is also why I kind of hate metrics and all that
yeah,
analytics and measurements. And why you were talking about tracking, I'm like, we could talk about this, but I have very strong opinions about it.
yeah.
It's if you stack up all the effort to the ultimate goal that you are trying to achieve and you fall short of the ultimate goal you're trying to achieve, what does that mean then? You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
you didn't make it to what you wanted to make. You didn't achieve what you set out to achieve, right? Which falls
Mm.
back to the whole, is consistency really just doing the same amount of things to get to the certain point that you want to get to? And if you don't get to that point, were you not consistent? Because I think we both agree putting that $10,000, 10,000 hours in proves consistency, right? It proves motivation, it proves drive, it proves all the things you need. And sure, you might have become a better person, but from a strict analytical standpoint, your 10,000 hours didn't get you the end result you wanted, right? So is consistency really the key, right? And here's my question. This is what I'll pivot to. Is consistency the key, or is adaptability the key?
Both. You need
You
both.
do this every
But
single
you
time, dude.
you you need both though. Okay, fair enough. If there was a gun to my head and I had to pick one, I would say adaptability. And I would only say because adaptability is kind of like a different approach, right? Adaptability requires consistency, whereas consistency on its own doesn't require adaptability, right? It's just kind of like, hey, I'm gonna wake up and do the same thing over and over and over, just a routine.
I agree.
So I would lean towards adaptability is more important than consistency, especially within this conversation, right? Like in life in general, because things change, metrics change, talent changes, right? Whatever the case may be, your mind changes. Just on the day to day, things change. You change. Your energy changes. Your time changes. Just like how we've been struggling within the last month to kind of be like consistent with the podcast, right? There are times where things in life happen, a birthday, a spouse's birthday, school, whatever the case may be. Mentally, you're just not there. Like, it's okay, right? I feel like it's okay. That's where the part of me is kind of like, I want us to be super consistent. I expect us to be super consistent, but at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, life happens, man. Shit happens.
Right. Yeah. No, and I guess maybe giving the what you were trying to allude to, giving the ultimate example of making it to the league probably was the most extreme case of this scenario. Because if you take fitness, right, health and fitness,
Yeah,
consistency is definitely key in health and fitness, right?
absolutely.
I would argue adaptability is not as big of a concern in that standpoint, right? You just
Hmm.
have to get into the healthy mood. Your adaptability happens within the first 30 to 60 days of changing your poor habits for healthy habits. That's your adaptability stage, right? And I guess you are right in the sense of saying both in that given situation. In any given situation, I feel as though there's levels to it, right? Because staying consistent in the gym is one thing, and staying consistent and becoming your ultimate version of yourself is another thing. But even in health and fitness, right? How many times have you've hit a plateau, or if you hit a peak, right? I feel as though like people who lift a lot, they would know exactly what this means. It's like once you hit that plateau, you have to change something, right?
Yeah.
The idea of shocking your muscles so you can improve, right? That's another example of adaptability. So I guess it happens in waves. It depends on where you're looking at, how you're looking at it, I guess, and
Hmm.
kind of like you're mentioning, just because we're adapting right now to our own personal lives, situations we got going on, and then we're still coming back and we're still doing this. It's not like we've completely given up, right? So that shows consistency and adaptability, and just trying to work things out. And I think
Exactly.
I guess that's a pondering point the book really tries to put on you, right? At least in my opinion, I think they make you think about it a little bit, other than
Mm-hmm.
hammering down the stay consistent, do a lot of things, because I feel as though that's like 90% of the book.
Yeah.
If you do X, Y, and Z 100 times over the next 100 years, you will finally get what you need, and that kind of like monologue and mantra. But I think it's important, right? Consistency
Mm-hmm.
is important, which is I guess leads us to that other point where we wanted to talk about. It's kind of like a formula to success.
Got you. So it's small choices, and consistency and time equals significant results. So small choices plus consistency plus time equals significant results. Dude, it's funny because it's like when we look at this stuff, we can't help but to say no shit, right? Like no shit.
Right.
We knew this. You knew this. I knew this. They know this. We know this. But in the end of the day, it's like, all right. So if we know it, why can't we fucking do it? Because it's not that
Right.
simple sometimes, right? I mean, if you had to put a equation together, yes. If you do small things over and over, consistency, all right, having that consistency and just giving your time, and over time, you'll have a significant result. I think. Okay, maybe that's what we were trying to talk about earlier. when we were
Right.
talking about the cohort with the kids trying to get to the NBA. My point is they're being consistent. They're doing small things, whatever. They're shooting. They're practicing free throws. They're working on weight training. They're eating better, whatever the case may be. Those things and consistency over time will give them significant results. But I feel like part of the issue is sometimes the goals may just be out of reach, right? Especially
Right.
from this like argument with the NBA, because there's only so many guys who can make it, right? From a talent
Right.
perspective, from a size perspective, whatever the case may be. So my question to you is, given that equation and giving this example, I think this is a great example because we can kind of both relate. No matter how many hours you, Tom, and me, Steve, put in, right, at this point in our lives, in 10,000 hours, would we make it to the league? I would highly say no, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just
Right.
not
Right.
plausible anymore. Um, it's
Is it
unfortunate.
a point in time thing, right? Is it a point in time thing? That's my question to you. It's like because then that kind of begs to differ of do you apply is applying these principles ever too late? What do you think about that? Can you apply this formula at any given point in your life and yield some sort of desire? So this is the biggest thing, right? Achieving a desired result. And I think that's my hang up with all of this is significant results is one thing. Achieving your desired results is another thing. Right? So where do you split the coin? Like where do you feel happy? What makes you feel good about it, right? Is this just a book that kind of wants to jumpstart your mindset? And after, like I said, 20, 30, X amount of years, you finally achieve your desired result? Because in the example of the NBA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you wanted to join the league, right? You put in all this hours, all this time, you don't get drafted. Some people keep on working, keep on trying, right? They end up in the G League, right? After the G League, they get a 10-day. Sometimes after a 10-day, they get called up, and then they sign a regular deal. And next, boom, very far and few, right? But maybe reaching the NBA is just our generalization of it. What if playing basketball professionally was the desired outcome, right? Just because you aren't drafted to the NBA doesn't mean you can't play in the Turkish league, the Euro League, the Chinese league, the whatever. Doesn't mean you can't play a excuse me, a D2 level of basketball somewhere else. Like there's a variety of different ways you can look at it, right?
Yeah.
And I guess it that goes back to adaptability in my sense, right? Just kind of changing at a certain point, pivoting your mindset to some other version or variation of your dream. But again, my take on this formula is, do you want to achieve significant results or do you want to achieve your desired result? Like, what do you think is what do you think?
I think ideally we all want to achieve our desired results, right? Like going to the NBA is a great accomplishment, something that many people probably wished, but most people won't experience. So I feel like maybe sometimes that's why we fuck up too. When we make those, well, it's hard to say because we all want something to grasp, a dream to grasp, right?
Mhm.
And if we don't grasp those dreams, does that mean we quit? I would say no. I would say no. It's kind of like the road of getting there is what I want to experience. However, most of us aren't willing to experience that to not realize it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how to put into words. I guess
I got
we give up before we're even close. We give up before we're even remotely close, and we're not able to adapt because we're so stuck on this main dream that the NBA, so to speak, whatever the NBA is to you, whether it's to be
right.
a professional, whatever, or whatever the case may be. It's just hard. It's hard. And people give up way before they're even closer to realizing anything, whether it be a semi-professional, G League, whatever the case may be. Like
It's interesting, talking about this reminds me of the last one of the last books we read, The Alchemist, right? The
yeah,
shop owner, his desired dream of going to Mecca,
to eat.
right? The
Hmm.
pilgrimage. And, why hasn't he ever left to go on the pilgrimage? It's his dream, it's his desire, right? And the fear of achieving your dream and no longer having anything after that is what scares him away from trying to achieve his dream, right? And sometimes that makes me think, right, in this context, as you're talking, like, is there the possibility that you dream too big, right? Is there the
Right.
possibility of dreaming? dreaming too big that it scares you off, and then you're afraid that once you achieve that ultimate dream, that you don't know where else to go. Right? It's a different level of like complacency, and you see, I feel as though that's something you see with rich people.
Yeah.
Right, when you get so rich that you don't know what to do with your money. Right, I think that's a perfect example of what we're kind of generally alluding to. But to get back to our main point, you know, adding I feel as though adding significant results to achieve your desired dream. I think this book is just another stepping stone, right? Or it's the message it's trying to portray is you need to improve, right, in order to get to where you want to get. I
Yeah.
feel as though what it boils down to. Like significant results are better than no results, right? Doing something consistently is better than not doing anything consistently, right? And even if it doesn't lead you to your desired outcome, as you so phrase it or imagine it, that
Hmm.
doesn't mean all your hard work goes to waste. I guess it's a mindset thing, right? It's like, but that here's the issue, right? That's the struggling point, and this is what I'm struggling to grasp with is you can put in all this and achieve significant results, but if your end goal, right, is X and all these significant results you've achieved to get to X just doesn't get you to X, it's demoralizing and it's counterintuitive. It throws you down, it beats you down, and you just don't know what to kind of do at that point. I feel as though a little bit of what we started with, we're kind of in this funk. I feel as though that's what it is, right? The funk, right?
Yeah.
And then next you don't kind of know what's the exit point, right? Because you put in time, like I don't know. That's my 2 points on this. Is like I really don't know. I feel as though that's where I'm stuck right now with thinking this. I've achieved significant results, right? I put in the
Mm-hmm.
time, right? I went through everything I've gone through, and here we are. But is this where I want? Like just like we were saying, like is this it? Like is this where we want to be? Like taking a step back, you're like, I know it's not, exactly where I want to be, exactly what I want to do, but like what's more, what's next, where's the next point?
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know, this book and our conversations get me really deep into thought with this because again, significant I'm just trying to like tie that in. Significant results, right, can get you something, but does it really matter if it doesn't get you what you ultimately wanted, right?
Yeah. I guess to answer your question and to kind of tie in what you said earlier about celebrities who are wealthy and they have more, right? They have enough. They have enough. Some people, I'll give you two examples that I'm thinking of when you were talking about this. One is like J. Cole, and another would be like Elon Musk. Both men, of course, in different levels of wealth, right, or riches. But one person in J. Cole, I would say that the example that I think of is that he's got money, he's got riches, but he realizes like he's good. Like he's happy, his family's good, his mom's good, whatever the case may be, and he's not really craving for more. He's just living, day to day at the moment. That's what it seems like to me. I don't know this guy personally, right? But then we look at like Elon Musk. This guy's have tons of money, right? Wealth, like for sure, he's wealthy. He's not just rich; he's wealthy, but he's still chasing these huge accomplishments that he's not only
Right.
like he's not only chasing them, but he's accomplishing a lot of these things, right? So I guess
Mhm.
to tie that into what we're talking about is we're just all different, right? Some people they may want more than what we have at the moment. And that's good because,
Right.
those are their aspirations and their desired results. But just because they want that doesn't mean that we have to have and want that. And it doesn't mean that
Right.
if we don't achieve what they achieve that we're less than or whatever the case may be. I think it just comes down to who you are as a person, as an individual, and you really understanding is the road that you're on going to get you whatever desired results you want. And maybe it's not something material like money or making it to the NBA, something like that. But what if it's just happiness? What if it's just like, making sure that your family's healthy, that you're healthy, that you have a healthy mindset. You know what I mean? Like those things are kind of, what's the word? You can't pay for stuff like that. You can't pay for
Right.
happiness, right? Like true happiness.
The value line. Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe like, sometimes we're just too hard on ourselves. And that's where mentally I've been in the last couple months, honestly, where like some of my mindset is like, yo, like, what are you chasing so hard that when you finally get there, what if when you finally get there, you don't even want what you have, or you know what I mean? Like this whole time, you missed out these relationships, these events, whatever the case may be. So I'm kind of curious what you have to say about that, and relate that to the conversation we've been having too, because I know I can hear it, about you, like what you're saying. So I'm just curious. I'm curious.
Well, that's the scary point, right? What you just mentioned. What if I'm chasing what I think I should be chasing, and I get there and it's not what I expected. It's not what I believed. It's not what I really wanted. I given, and I feel as though a lot of people find themselves in that situation, right? Perfect
Mm-hmm.
classic example would be like the average middle class working man, right? Working his 9 to 5, does overtime, does everything that he needs to do, works his way up the corporate ladder, and next thing you know, he's on his second marriage. His 2 kids from his first
Mm.
marriage doesn't talk to him. He has a strained relationship in his current life. Like and next you know, you're all over, and you're just like, is this what I really wanted? Was this the desired outcome? Do I have everything I wanted to have? Right? And then on the flip side of it, that might be exactly what you wanted, right? Next, you have a boat, you have a happy family, everything's great, you're putting your kid through college, yada yada yada. So like you said, it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But you know, I feel as though that's such a safe answer, right?
Mm.
That's such a generic safe answer to say everyone's different. Everyone leads their life differently, right? And we all can't and don't conform to the same path, although everyone in society is trying to force you to conform to the same path. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. But I feel as though just leaning back and just saying, it doesn't work like that. I don't know. I'm conflicted in saying that there has to be some. Okay, I guess back to consistency. There has to be some level of consistency to achieve success, right? Although your definition of success may be different.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I think the book harps on and pushes is you have to do something, somehow realize what you're doing to achieve success, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to what you're saying, everyone's definition of success can be different, right? I agree with that. But I feel as though the path in which everyone gets to success is it's the same but different, right? The events in the path are different. However, the path to success is the same, is what I'd say.
Hmm. I don't disagree, but I don't know. I don't know. Based on that last statement, I don't know. Because okay, let me argue this. And maybe we're on the same page, but maybe I'm just a little off in my understanding. Yeah. I know people personally
Mm-hmm.
who have less materially than me, myself,
Right.
right? Less education, less whatever the case may be, but they're happier. And I asked myself, how? I've asked myself this. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to say their relationship, whatever the case may be. But they seem, at least to me, to my perspective, less stressed, happier, and maybe even in. So when I look at it, I would say they're successful. And why would I say they're successful? It's because in reality, I know society seems to have this idea that materials, big house, nice car, nice clothes, whatever, that may mean success. But to me, really, I would say like happiness is what I want, right? Like peace of mind, clarity. And some people, the people who I'm thinking of, particularly who have less or whatever the case may be, in all sectors, are more successful than I am. You know what I'm saying? So that's why the last statement you said, like I agree. I do agree that we although we may all say we have different opinions on what success is, society kind of steers you towards a point where okay, this is success or that's success, right? To an extent. But individually, like I feel like okay, this person or these groups of people are more successful than me because they don't have all of these headaches that comes with the other stuff, the materials, the money, the whatever the case may be. So how do you feel about that? I guess that's where we're kind of, I don't know if we're on the same page when it comes to that.
Well, I guess this is the perfect example of how our definitions of success can
Very.
give different opinions, right? And by no means am I saying like material items and materialistic things
Sure,
are
sure.
my definition of success. But in your sense, like I said, all right, these are people right? Whether you grew up with them, whether however your interaction. This is what I mean when the path to success is the same, but everyone's events are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all start in the same place, for the most part, right? When you look at your peers, and then it comes to the varying levels of success, right? You know, you can't compare your success to Elon Musk, right? Or prime example, J. Cole's success isn't the same as Elon Musk's success or Jeff
Right.
Bezos' success, right? Something in that vein, right? We can't compare what our success is to people either above or below, or you know, we can only look at it from. I guess this is how I look at it, right? You can only compare your success to those around you, right?
Hmm.
Like your what is success in your bubble is how I look at it, right? Just in your immediacy, right? Like and that's I guess that's where you start getting complacent. I feel as though this is what you're kind of alluding to, right? Because your definition of success could very well be, a balance of both, right? I want to be happy with some materialistic things that make me feel good because this is what I like, right? Doing what I like, having what I like is my definition of success. Not worrying and being carefree about certain things. That's my definition of success, right? For
Mm-hmm.
me, my definition would be being in a position where I can provide for my family, both future and present, perfectly fine, and no one has to worry about a certain thing. That's my definition of success.
Mm-hmm.
However, I get there and achieve that result, right? That's to be determined. But I feel as though on this journey to success, everyone has, you know, a varying definition of what success is. And again, like I said, most of us start at the same point, especially first generation, right? First generation being Asian American, I feel as though we kind of can say we start from the same general point. Immigrant mom and dad, they work their ass off, put us through school, and then we're on the same starting point as every other first generation Asian American in the community, whatever it may be, even in general, right? We're all on the same path, right? We're all at the same starting line, right?
Hmm.
I guess that's the best way to think about it, right? We're all at the same starting line, but how we all get to that finish line is different. Would you agree? I feel as though that's a better analogy and interpretation of what I've been trying to say.
It is, and I get what you're saying. I don't believe you're wrong. I just feel like experiences, though. Okay, maybe you've seen it before. I've seen like a commercial or maybe some kind of ad or video where it's like, okay, like step forward if you live in a household of two parents and it's not like a single
Right.
family parent, right? And then the next question is basically the questions allude to like, okay, you may all be in the
Right.
same class at the same place at the same time, but here are your advantages and here are their
Right.
disadvantages, people behind you. So I guess when I think about what you're saying, I don't disagree, right? Like I definitely agree with you. Yes. Looking looking objectively from a perspective where we're a first generation Asian like college students. Let's put it at that, right? If that is
Right.
our barometer. But at the same time, like there are a lot of kids who maybe we all got there, we're Asian Americans, whatever the case may be. Man, we shouldn't even go back and forth about this. My point is, you're right. I don't disagree, right? I don't disagree at all. It's just some of the stuff. I just feel like it's so subjective, right? Because it's hard. It really is like a person to person. And I know it might sound like a cop out answer, but really it's a person to person basis because
No.
you and I maybe okay, we're at the same college, at the same university and everything, but maybe our parents had different backgrounds and maybe they provided
Mm-hmm.
different advantages or whatever the case may be. So
And I'm
like I said, I don't
and I'm
disagree.
glad you bring that point. I'm glad you bring that point, right? And using that commercial as the basis to show how everyone has certain advantages and disadvantages over others, right? This ties into what I was saying earlier about consistency, success, and doing the whole adaptability thing. It brings into the variables, right? The thing I mentioned earlier that consistency is consistency. You can keep on doing the same thing, and you have to adjust and adapt for variables, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you just mentioned is the exact definition of variables in your life and your journey to success,
Yeah.
right? And so for that, I guess we can agree on that note that variables define, how and when you reach your level of success, right? And I feel as
Mm,
though those other life variables can influence your definition of success, right?
absolutely.
And I feel as though at a certain point, if you don't account for so here, if you don't account for the variables, right? Everyone's at the same starting point. Everyone gets to success in their own way on their own path, whether it's longer or shorter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Adjusting for the variables, you find what we see in society today, right? Success is predominantly driven on certain material items, and then some people have harder times reaching a level of success than other people, and so on and so forth. And I guess this is the one thing I feel as though the book really lacks, right? addressing the different variables.
Yeah.
It just kind of sets forth the idea and the notion that, do small things, change small behaviors, and you'll end up with results, right? Let's not even say success, and let's not even say, achieving your desired goal, right? You will end up with results,
Yeah.
positive results. And I think maybe that's what we've been, at least I've been hung up on, is results versus success, right? Because just because you achieve results doesn't mean you achieve success
Right.
by
Or
any means.
goals. Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything, right? Having positive results pushing you into the direction you want to go is great. But that's where my hangup is. Yeah, sure, results are great, but back to your quote, you know, uh, like winners track everything and it's all a metrics game, right? You got to
Yeah.
track your results, but what are you tracking it against,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because variables and metrics mean something when you compare it to something else, right? And just without that something else, I just can't seem to conceptualize it as being the correct way to kind of preach whatever the hell they're trying to preach, right? That's just my personal take on it.
Are we taking it too far by assuming though that the end result should be success? So maybe this is another way to look at it. When I'm looking at the book and when I'm reading it, it just makes me self-conscious on how I could be better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like for example, the part in the book where we talked about the three gentlemen or however many gentlemen it was, and they did different things. For instance, the one person had a snack every day. The one person maybe instead of drinking soda, they drank water. Whatever the case may be, maybe it's just
Right.
being better, being a better you, right? Like this book, if you were to read it and maybe you didn't realize some of the small habits that you have, maybe now you do realize, like, oh, instead of like, biting my nails and now I'm an avid nail biter, like, let me not bite my nails, you know what I'm saying? Let me go cut them or whatever the case may be. I know this is a stupid example, but that's my point. Like,
Yeah,
just little things add up.
right. No, I get what you mean. I get what you're saying. Maybe we are. Maybe. Okay. How we're talking about self-help books, and these books kind of like at a certain point they're supposed to help you, and especially if you resonate with it or like you feel as though you're going through that moment, it highlights something. Maybe, just maybe, we're in this we're interpreting it the way we're interpreting it because of the position we're currently in and what we're thinking about ourselves and how it kind of relates to it, and we're
Yeah.
like, well, we've done all these small changes, we are waiting for the compound effect to take effect and yield results. Give me my pay. Perfect example, right? The idea of a Roth IRA, right? Everyone's That's like the new thing. Everyone's talking about. It's not a new thing, but I feel as though that information is now more out there, right? To help people build generational wealth, you should start investing when you're 18, $500 every month until you max it out. You get your $6,000 a year. After 62 years, you're a millionaire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my point is, that's an example of small things over time gives you a significant result.
Hmm.
$500 a month for the next 60 years gives you about $1.1 million by the time you retire, tax free.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, great. But that's my gripe. At 62, when you cash that out, you've cashed it out. That's your desired result. It achieves the end goal, being a millionaire at 62 or whatever it may be, right? The end point is that point when you cash it out. My issue with reading this is sometimes you don't see the end point, right? And without like the end point, it's just going to go on forever, right? You can do a ton of small things over 100 years to always achieve significant results, but results in what?
Yeah.
Results for what? And that's I hate to say that maybe we are reading into it too much, but when I read that and think about that, that's what I think about, right? Is it a
Mm-hmm.
means to meet an end, or is it an ends for, like, do you know what I mean? Like, what's the point if it doesn't what's the point in putting, here's the example, right? Investing is probably the best way to look at it, and I know there's a couple of different quotes about investing time, knowledge that's not invested or reinvested is a waste, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea of investing and compounding resonate in this book. So that's the thing. You put in something expecting to achieve a return, right? You invest to aspire to make money, right? Your return on your investment. Your ROI is why you invest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in my sense, is like to achieve significant result. What the fuck is the ROI on that, right? I can
Yeah.
put in all this time, this consistency, this effort, but for what purpose, right? And without that purpose, you're just doing something for the sake of doing it. And
Mm.
that's my take, and that's I think that's my gripe with the book, right? You maybe it's not meant for the macro level, maybe it's meant more for a micro level, right? Because some of the examples in the book were but the perfect example of the three guys who changed their eating habits, right? One guy, after a year and a half, lost weight. His wife loved him more, yada, 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 right? A year and a half. In the grand scheme of things, life expectancy in the United States is roughly in the 80s. A year and a half isn't a long period of time,
Yeah.
right? So maybe this formula and the compound effect isn't meant to be scaled, right? It's not meant for the grandiose I'm going to be the next Elon Musk and I'm gonna fly to Mars kind of
Yeah.
goal, but it's meant more for the I want to make $10,000 by the end of 2025, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's maybe it's a short-term mechanism and not a long-term mechanism, right?
Hmm.
And maybe this is where at least where I'm getting. I don't want to speak for you, but I feel as though some of our gripe with it might be that kind of thing is like, all right, like sure we've achieved some sort of short term success and however we want to look at it, but I'm waiting for the next part. Like I'm waiting for the end, and the end isn't clear.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
We may disagree here. This may be the first time where we just disagree. But like I said, I don't think it's that we disagree because I think you're like out of line or that you're talking. No, like it's not that. I just think maybe the way that we're looking at it is slightly different because I keep going back when you're saying this. It's not like I'm saying, yo, Tom, like you're right. You are correct, right? Like it's kind of like, okay, what happens after the compound effect? I guess what I'm just thinking of is the compound effect from the day-to-day basis where maybe the person who's reading this doesn't want to be successful, so to speak. I mean, I'm sure they do. That's why they're looking for the self-help. But they are getting better, right? They are helping themselves by getting better by doing the things that maybe are going to compound to get better. On the flip side of that, though, they can very well be doing bad shit, right? Like smoking a cigarette, one per day or something like that. Eventually, they're going to be like chain smoking, right? Whatever the case may be. So, I don't know, bro. We're going back and forth on it. Like I said, I don't think that we're disagreeing on what each other are saying. Like I respect your opinion on this. I just think that maybe the outlook or the perspective we're taking on reading the book was slightly different. You're basically saying like after I read it, okay, cool, like you helped me, but what now? Like like am I achieving anything after that? After just having this short term benefit? And my thing is kind of like, well, maybe if you're benefiting yourself in the short term, it leads to more things. I guess that's just all I'm trying to say. Yeah, right?
No, yeah, I agree. No, and especially if you bring it in from the negative perspective, right? If you smoke a cigarette a day, in
Yeah.
20 years you're gonna lose your fucking lung,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
In that sense, that's what the compound effect, I guess, highlights. Small actions lead to result, or leads to something, right? Small actions lead to something.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I guess we're not disagreeing. And again, I guess it's what you said. Our look on it is just a little bit. I'm more of like 20 steps out, and I'm just looking at it like, all right, it's like a game of Monopoly. I'm looking at the whole entire board, right? And
Exactly.
you're at the corner of like from go to jail, and you're like, all right, like what's the next stretch of land? Like how do I get from here to there, and what can I do? What's going
Mm-hmm.
on? I'm looking at it like from far, and again, which is kind of what I was saying. Maybe it's not meant to be viewed through a macro lens, but more of a micro lens,
Exactly.
right? More,
That's
more
yep.
of a step by step versus more than after 100 steps, what's next, what do we do? And
Yeah.
again, I think that's just a fruit of where I am, right,
Mm-hmm.
in everything of what's kind of going on, and I'm reading it and going like, what else can I change, right? Successful, but like what other little things can I do to get to where? And if I start doing more little things, like is it going to get me to the outcome I need or I'm currently desiring, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
instead of looking at it from a step-by-step standpoint.
Hmm. Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. I understand your perspective for sure. For sure. All right, you want to
I
wrap
think
that point up? We
that's
have
it.
one more. Are you? Talk again. I see you, but I don't hear you now. Testing, testing.
Are we back?
Yeah, I see you. I don't hear you though. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think we're okay now.
All right.
Stream looks okay.
I'm pretty sure we
Yeah.
both froze on each other's. I know it was just a
Got
little
you.
hiccup.
Okay. We have one more point that we wrote down that we didn't really talk about yet. There are no new fundamentals. Do you agree with this? There are no new fundamentals, or do you disagree?
I mean, it's kind of the same notion of you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right?
Yeah.
You say otherwise, but I want to say there aren't any new fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
I feel as though once you grasp the basis and learn the basis, you can do that forever, and that's what it is. It's the foundation to do what you need to do, right? You can't just say you need a new foundation until that foundation's eroded, or you prove that your fundamentals are somehow flawed, right? And generally, I feel as though the fundamentals of life, be a great person, be kind to others, work hard, work diligently. Like those are some fundamentals that just resonate in every capacity in whatever field you may be in. So I don't think there are any new fundamentals that a person can be taught, right? I feel as though once you learn them, those are the bedrock, right? That's the bedrock to your existence and how you portray, perceive, and do things in the future. Now I'm kind of disagreeing with myself a little bit because I think that everyone can be taught different fundamentals,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I guess that it just boils down to what do you call fundamentals in this context? Are they
Yeah.
morals? Are they habits? Like what are fundamentals? Yeah, go ahead. I'll pitch the question to you. What are the fundamentals you think that they were talking about?
I think that's why when we originally looked at this quote, I was kind of like, well, how are you reading this, right? Because I can read it a couple ways. When I first seen it without our discussion, I was thinking there are no new fundamentals, meaning like, okay, like what I'm taught, whatever variables I'm given in the beginning, that's what I'm stuck with, right? Those are going to be the key, pivot, the key pillars to my success or my failure, whatever the case may be. So I think we're in agreeing when we're talking about how we're looking at it for sure. But if like you said, there are definitely different ways. I'm losing you on video right now, Tom. I can hear you though. I think you froze. You froze like this. There you go. You look good, bro. You can hear me? We're having some technical difficulties here, man. Unfortunately, but it's all good. We're almost at the end of our point anyway. So Tom, let me know when you can hear me, bro. How we doing? I'm gonna blame the rain on this one, guys. It's been raining like shit in Philly.
You're moving and I hear you.
All right, perfect. Yeah, it's funny because it's like you froze, and then I guess I'm freezing on your end when you're freezing on my end. Yeah.
So I guess it definitely has to do with the connection and what's kind of going on outside. It has to be.
Yeah, because it's raining like crazy here in Philly, and I know you're right over the bridge, so it's probably raining like that over there too, right?
It's not raining super hard, but it's coming down consistently.
Okay. I don't know where I got cut off, but basically I was saying we're definitely viewing the quote in the same way, but I can see how there can be different perspectives in reading this. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like one way you could read it is basically like, yo, there are no. I guess one of the ways I seen it earlier was that the fundamentals are what they are. Meaning, if you eat clean, you work out, you're gonna be healthy. Period. Right? There's no changing that. That's how I kind of read it at one point too. So that's why I'm happy that we're reading it the same way. But for sure, like there's definitely different ways of reading that, different ways of taking in what fundamentals are. And in my opinion, fundamentals is just what works for you, right? No, I'm sorry, it's not what works for you. It's what works for the majority of people.
Okay.
Right? So I guess an example would be if you're I don't know what an example would be. What was an example? If you're really good at researching, you're really good at practicing your cases and whatnot, whatever the case may be, preparing for your cases, you're most likely going to win given the right variables. Is that a good example? In like a court case, I suppose.
It depends on what circle you want to run it through, right? Let's, like you were saying, in fitness, eating healthy, consistently working out. Those are the two fundamentals, right?
Sure.
That's your pillar. Let's, in the example you're trying to give in law, if you're preparing for a case, preparation and knowledge, two key fundamentals, right? Success. Well, perfect example would be, how many successful people have told you that they read,
Hmm.
right? Reading could be considered a fundamental core principle to be successful on the grandiose scheme, right? So, like in that sense, maybe fundamentals can just be the fundamentals depends on whatever field, niche, specific thing you're thinking about or talking about. You can spread it into sports and the same thing. Basketball. What are the fundamentals in basketball? Good footwork and a good shooting form for the most part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Football. What's fundamental in football? It depends on your position, right? The fundamentals in each position vary.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess fundamentals is I feel as though fundamentals is such a broad topic, right? But I feel as though fundamentals in certain fields and areas can't blend with each other, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. For sure.
So like yeah, if you talk about like the fundamentals of being a good human being and a good person, kindness, respect, right? And okay, that's a bad example because you could be respectful in all other aspects, but that's besides. But you get the point. Like that's
Yeah.
fun. There are no new fundamentals in the sense that in whatever the given area you're trying to go in, like there are just certain key things you need to be good at whatever that is, or to achieve anything in whatever it is. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see it. But all right, that's all our points.
Yes, sir.
You want to
Those are the
give
three.
it a good wrap up?
Yeah, man. So, as always, do you recommend the book?
You know, I'm gonna not recommend the book just because of my own
Hmm.
internal fight with it. I'm just gonna say, listen, it's common sense. Unless you've been living under a rock, everyone understands what compounding is in general. You take the money
Yeah.
aspect of it and you apply it to your life. And that's it. It's simple. It's common sense, and maybe you won't read it and have to go through that whole internal dialogue. It might not put you in a funk like it put me in a funk. So I'm not gonna recommend the book. I feel as though it doesn't. It's not gonna help anyone in the
Hmm.
grand scheme. Is how I look at it.
I would. I think I would recommend the book, but
Okay.
similar to some of the books in the past that we've read, we've kind of said I would recommend the book if. I would recommend the
Okay.
book if you are in a predicament where maybe you're like trying to fine tune some things in your life, right? Like not necessarily you're trying to search for a bigger meaning because I would say, like Tom said, many times throughout the podcast, he couldn't really see the bigger picture that they were trying to make. And I would agree with that. I can't really see the bigger picture that they're trying to make either, aside from making you just a better person day to day. Let's just leave it at that, right? Whatever it is that you want to approach, whether it's fitness, your life, your marriage, whatever the case may be, compounding good things are gonna bring good results. That's it. That's all it comes down to. So if you're looking for something, just a little pick me up, something like that, yeah, I would recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it if you're looking for anything drastic. This definitely isn't The Alchemist. This definitely isn't a book where we've had a lot of analyzation that is life changing for us. I would disagree to say that, right?
Yep.
What else do we usually ask when it comes to the books? Do we recommend it? And that's it, right?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
This,
So now we go
that's
to
how you
picking
get
our
out
book.
of this for too long. We don't even remember what we do.
It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit, but we're getting back into the swing of things. I know for sure, Tom, that we've been talking about this off stream, off of our podcast. But I would definitely like to read a book where it's a story book and not a
Right.
self help book right now. Boy, I don't know how many more of these I can read in a row. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, bro,
Yeah.
like it doesn't match up with what's going on within our lives and how we're feeling. So, uh,
Exactly.
do you want
At
to look
this
at our
point,
list? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
yeah. No, I think this is the point where we're gonna have to revisit our book list because I know
Hmm.
for sure out of the 100 or so books we have on there, about 95% of them are books of some variety. So I feel as
Exactly.
though we're gonna have to revisit that after the stream and kind of work our way through that, and
Right.
then we'll just, I guess the viewers will find out what book we chose next week or when next 2 weeks or whenever our next episode ends up airing. But
Hmm.
I think that I feel as though this is a good start, like a good segue and an ending point, right? We hit 12 episodes. That's a fairly solid, season of the Legacy Liftoff, and now it's a good way for us to segue maybe into something a little bit more different, a little bit more. It's just a different flavor of reading and book style. So I feel as though we did a solid 12, 11 episodes of self-help books, maybe it is a
Mm.
perfect segue for us to try something different and try different books.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys have any recommendations in regards to just any books in general, I know some people have been sending me stuff. I'm not sure if people have been sending you stuff, but preferably right now, not the self-help stuff. We're going through some stuff where we need to deal with it on our own for a second. You know what I mean? But all right, so that's it for now, Tom. Always a pleasure, bro. Thanks for the conversation. Man, I don't know how we're gonna give it to them, but we'll give it to them sometime, maybe on our Instagram or something like that. You know what I mean? We'll figure it out. All right, Tom. Thanks a lot, brother.
All right, brother.
All right, guys. Let's go.